What's going on, guys? Continuing the rating climb, and actually somebody had asked for D4. Let's play D4 just to mix it up. Aha. So, Caro Khan, I'm gonna play a Gambit here. Well, maybe I'm gonna play a Gambit. We're gonna start off with the main line, just getting 2 pawns in the center and bringing out the knight. Yeah, most people do take. And here I will play a Gambit, and this move, yeah, that's one of the main moves. Usually they'll play knight to f6, I believe, but this is also fine. I'm going to play the move f3. Basically, we're giving up a pawn here to get quick development and also open up the f-file so that after we castle, our rook is involved in the game. So yeah, e6, pretty normal. I'm going to go ahead and castle. And, you know, when you give up the f-pawn, you do have to keep an eye on this diagonal. But right now we've got it blocked off with the pawn, which is defended. And we're already starting to set up some tricky tactics here along the f-file. So depending on what black does, I may move this knight forward. Okay, bishop d6 is an interesting move. Usually they bring the knight out first. So bishop to d6, probably still fine, but I am going to start thinking about some of these tactics. So knight to g5 is kind of the typical move that I would play normally against knight to f6. So I'm debating right now, do I still want to play that move? Like, does bishop d6 change anything? I don't think so. I'm not really worried about this. I'll just take it. Yes, the queen can follow it up with the check, but who cares? My knight is defended. And the point of going here is that it unleashes the rook. And all of a sudden, we have some tactical ideas here. So, yeah, I think I will do that. I'm just thinking what happens on bishop g6. Because normally there's a line that I like to play where I would sacrifice here. And I'm just debating, do I still want to do that with the knight back and the bishop out? It does change things a little bit, so I want to be a little careful here. So we'll see. Let's go ahead and play knight g5. We'll start with that move. And I may or may not actually follow through with the sacrifice here if we do see bishop to g6. So the reason black needs to play bishop g6, if I'm not mistaken, is because otherwise I'm going to take here. And once I take here, it's a fork, obviously. And if you're wondering what happens if the king takes, well, it walks into a pin here. Okay, and we might see the same exact tactic. So takes, it walks into the pin, which means this pawn can no longer defend the bishop, and I would simply take it. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. Now, the other way to do this tactic is you start with the rook capture, and then you jump in with the knight and get the triple fork there. Trying to remember which way is better. They're both good for different reasons, and I'm not exactly sure. I think this one's probably better, so because we're gonna get the rook back. Our knight probably will even survive, and black can no longer castle there. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead. Rook takes f5, and here you can already see the aggressive nature of this gambit. Normally, this kind of stuff wouldn't be possible if our pawn was on f2, right? So you could see the benefit of giving that pawn up earlier. Okay, here we go. Coming in with the triple fork, and black does have queen c7, but I'm not super concerned about that. I'm still, you know, probably going to take the rook. Yes, the bishop can come down. I'll just slide over. I think we're okay there. I guess it could be a little tricky with the knight coming in, but black's king is also going to be exposed. So it's going to be kind of a wild position, actually, if we see this. If we see queen c7 takes, bishop takes, knight g4, yeah, what would happen after that? Okay, so black decides to just sacrifice right away. Interesting move. Actually does have a point. And one point could be that if I take this, knight to g4, let's just say I go back, queen to h4, and there's maybe a perpetual check, 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 if I'm not careful. So that's one thing to keep an eye out for. Now I have options. Option number one, I don't even have to take it. I could just slide my king over. Then there's knight g4, and it's pretty tricky. The other option is I take it, and on knight g4, then I just sacrifice my queen. The point being, after that, I would take here. The issue, though, how many pieces am I getting for that? I'm getting a knight and a bishop. I'm losing my knight. So I would essentially have a knight and a... No, I have 2 bishops for the rook. Yeah, that's a pretty good deal still. So that might be the best line, or maybe just king over. So let's say king over knight to g4. If I take the queen, there's a fork. I lose this, I get this. Still getting the 2 pieces. That's pretty similar, actually, as if I just take it. And taking it is a bit more forced. So, tricky position. Not a bad try by our opponent, but I think what I'm going to do, having analyzed that, is take here. And on knight g4, I'll just take it. And after the capture, I'll take the queen. And after that big trade, essentially what's left over, right, if you think about it, are these pieces right here, the ones that I'm highlighting in red. So I can see rook and a rook, knight and a knight, 2 bishops for a rook, and then 3, 4, 5 and a pawn. So 2 bishops for a rook and a pawn. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with my 2 bishops. So I'm going to go with that line. Now, is it the best line? I'm not sure. This king h1, knight g4 looks kind of tricky. That might actually be better, actually. Queen c7 takes. Yeah, that could be better. But since I see a forced line here, relatively forced, that I'm pretty happy with, I think I will just go with this. Okay, queen c7. Yeah, that's another way to do it. But yeah, I guess, okay. Now I have to decide. I block here and I just say, okay, I'm happy with my 2 bishops for the rook. Or I try to leave that threat and I just be prepared to deal with knight to g4 after. So for example, say I go king g1, knight g4, there's a threat. What am I going to play? I'm just looking. There's a check here, but the king can just step over. I don't really have an immediate follow-up. I also play g3 as a way to stop this, knight g4, and then I just slide my king over. The nice thing about g3 is it gives me bishop f4 as a move, which I do like. So maybe g3 is just the simplest thing here. Probably black's going to play something like rook f8, then bam, bishop f4 comes, and then we have knight to d6, and that looks very, very dangerous. Okay. Yeah, so I think I'm going to do that. Also like knight here, attacking. No, my queen would take it. That's not a move. Yeah, so okay, I think g3 makes sense. So let's play g3. And the nice thing also is I don't have to worry about that knight g4, queen h2 checkmate or perpetual check, whatever, shenanigans. Because on knight g4, I just move. Just move my king over. And the knight can't go here because it's controlled. And the queen can't come in because the pawn's blocking. And so I think that's fine. Very tricky position. And it just goes to show how, like, even just one move different from kind of the main line, bringing the bishop out instead of the knight first, and we get all these kind of wild tactics. Okay, knight g4, so let's go king g2. And I have to go here because I want to defend the pawn. Obviously, I don't want to, like, go back here and lose that. And, of course, if I come up here, I walk into a fork and lose my queen. So this is really the only move. But that's what I had planned anyway. Like I said, this fork doesn't work. So now probably this we're going to see. And then, like I mentioned before, bishop to f4. No, black is going to sacrifice the rook. Wow, okay. I think before I even take it, what I would like to do is play bishop to f4. That's a very useful move to throw in. I wonder if black actually can take, check, take me, and then they would have time to save the rook. That's interesting. But there's, nope, queen there doesn't work. That is a very interesting line. Actually looks good for black. They take here. I could take the rook at that moment. Then I lose my knight. Huh. So maybe I do just have to take it. Otherwise, I may lose the opportunity is basically what I'm thinking. Okay, well, I don't really see any threats that this move did. And yes, it can come over here and maybe jump in here. Yes, it can attack my bishop, but other than that, I don't really care. So I think I will go ahead and grab the rook. And, you know, now we're up 2 bishops. So that's pretty significant. King is a little bit exposed, but not terribly. And black doesn't have a lot of pieces left to attack with. Okay, so now maybe bishop f4 makes more sense. They're still the same tactic. Takes, check, king goes there, takes. So maybe actually I just move the knight. Yeah, that same tactic is kind of annoying actually. And I just don't want my knight to be hanging at the end of all those lines. So I'm just waiting until my knight is more safe, and then I'll play bishop f4. Wow, black is just all out aggression here. Not even worried about the pieces. I like what they're doing. I like the style, but I think it's just a bit too much. I think it's just a bit too much. So I probably am just going to take the rook. I guess the knight could come over here. I am going to have to defend a little bit. Or maybe I throw in bishop f4. Yeah, maybe that's the way. Throw in bishop f4 first. Gain tempo on the queen. And then we take the rook. Now I've added kind of a defender here. Because you imagine if I take this right away, and then knight to h5 happens, I do have to deal with the threat here. Now, it's not that hard to deal with. I could bring my knight back or bring my queen over, but, you know, rather than even allowing that, I'll just go with the bishop f4 first, and we'll take this guy next. Very complicated position. Okay, so let's just verify where can the queen infiltrate. No, everything's controlled. I have my bishop and knight doing a great job here, going all these squares. So I don't think we have to be concerned by that move. Let's go ahead and grab another piece. And black is just running out of pieces. That's kind of the problem that black has now. Okay, they do take that. So let's see, how can we simplify this to end the game? Well, d5 is an aggressive move, which potentially opens up the queen to attack the king. I do like that. Queen to e1 would offer the queen trade and gain control of the file. Sorry, gain control of the file. That looks very good. Let's just make sure there's no knight forks. Nope. Queen captures. We've got the rook. Looks pretty good to me. So let's do that. Like I said, very happy with the queen trade because I'm ahead so many pieces. And if not, I've at least gained control of the open file. All right, knight to e4. Not super concerned with that. I'm happy to trade, so let's go ahead. Trade off some more pieces. All right. And I'm thinking just queen e2. It does two things. Of course, attacks the knight, but also opens the way for my rook to maybe, you know, after h5, we can come over here, or even just come to e1, pile up on this pawn, and maybe we just take the pawn. Might be the simplest thing. Okay, black goes back, tries to defend that way. But what that's going to allow me to do is pin the knight and force another trade, which, again, when you're ahead so many pieces, trading just makes your life a lot easier. So that's what we're going to do here. And I'm keeping an eye on the time. So I don't want to, you know, get caught up analyzing something for too long now. Let's go ahead and trade. Okay, and let's bring that rook over like I mentioned. We'll start by attacking this. I am expecting to see f5, and then I'll probably just slide it over here. Yep, now that's a new target for me. And basically the important thing here is that I don't blunder anything really big. So I'm just looking at the threats, trying to put my pieces on, you know, good squares. Let's go here to kind of defend these dark squares. And we're also attacking stuff here. Okay. Let's go queen f4. Again, keeping an eye on the threats. And I really want to infiltrate with my queen, try to get rid of black's queen. Also looking at this move, that looks like it could be pretty powerful. To force the king up and start grabbing the pawns with checks. So both of these moves coming to mind, maybe queen d6, depending on if that becomes available to me, would be pretty good. So, you know, that's a good habit, especially when you're low on time. Try to give yourself like a couple of moves, 2, 3, 4 options that you can have. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, maybe, yeah, I think I am going to do this one. But because I kind of had those in the back of my mind, it was very quick for me to make a decision. And I chose this one because after the king moves up, there's the skewer. So that was easy for me to find, like I said, primarily because I was already sort of thinking about that. So here we go. Now it's super simple. We just bring the rook down for checkmate. Okay, our opponent resigns. So interesting game. Let's actually go check the review on that real quick. And see how we did. Okay, not bad. Our opponent played pretty well, I would say. Just got a little bit too aggressive. Yeah, so I was very familiar with the position right up until here. I was expecting knight to f6. This would be kind of like the main line. And then I would play knight g5, unleashing all those tactics like we saw in the game. Bishop g6 is the main line, and that's, you know, what I kind of was expecting. Bishop d6 threw me for a little bit of a loop, just because it sort of changes the dynamic a little bit. And we actually did see that after the tactics. Okay, so engine says, yeah, both moves are very good. They're almost equal. So either way I would have played it would have been fine. So I decided to go for this one. Okay, brilliant. And then is that a good move for black? That is the best move for black. Okay, so good job by our opponent finding that one. King takes h2 was the best move. Okay, so weird. There was an error classifying the move. Never seen that one before. All right, here g3 was okay. Yeah, g3 was fine. Bringing the king back was also fine. I just didn't want to have to deal with this, like I mentioned. But Stockfish says don't even worry about it. You bring your queen over, and then what's the follow-up here? You swing the queen to h4, and that's how you defend. Interesting idea. I didn't think far enough along to find that move. So in my mind, g3 was just the easiest way. But okay. Anyway, let's keep going and play another game here. All right, d4. Let's play d5. And if we see a queen's gambit, maybe, okay, knight of 3. Not a lot of like gambits that you can really play against this. So we might just have to play a normal game. I was trying to play another gambit. Yeah, not a whole lot here. We're going to see a London, it looks like. So, yeah, we'll play e6. And, you know, normally I say don't block in your bishops. I have a plan here. I'm going to go ahead and fee and kettle the bishop this way just to get a different type of position. So I am planning ahead for where my bishop is going to go. I'm not just kind of blindly moving this pawn forward and trapping my bishop. That's not a good habit to get into. But if you have a plan of how are you going to activate that bishop, that's different. So my plan is going to be to do this. All right. But for now, let's go ahead and bring the bishop out, kind of challenge white's bishop here. Okay. Both captures would actually be fine. Normally, you don't want to double your pawns, but in this case, since it brings another pawn towards the center that I could actually potentially use to help me build the center, that would also be fine. But I'm just going to go ahead and take with the queen for now. And probably just castle. Just keep it simple. And I said I was going to fee and kettle the bishop. The other option is if I am able to play e5, then the bishop can just come out normally. So, yeah, maybe we'll play knight here and see if we can get in a quick e5, and maybe we just bring the bishop out like this. Yeah, it looks like I am going to be able to. So I think I will do that. I'll go ahead and just play e5, and we can get our bishop out like this. Notice I have enough pieces defending now so that if white wants to trade, that's totally fine with me. And I will have to, you know, waste a move on with my queen, but I actually have an idea here. Maybe we'll get to see it if white decides to go for this. No. I was going to say if they did capture and play knight f3, I was going to swing my queen over to the king side and use it to potentially attack white's king. But they decided to just defend instead. So I'm thinking of just bringing my rook to the half-open file. I'm also thinking of just developing my bishop maybe here. Maybe we'll start with a rook move here. Go ahead and put the rook where I think it wants to go. I'm still kind of deciding on this bishop, like which square do I want to go to. So let me just wait a move, see what white's going to do, and maybe I get a little bit more information on where that bishop can go. The rook is pretty much always going to go here. This rook probably here or here. One of these two squares is what I'm imagining. All right, so maybe bishop f5 makes sense, kind of lining up on this diagonal. One thing that I'm asking myself is, am I okay with knight to h4 trying to trade for my bishop? Looks like I would maybe even be able to hop in here with the bishop, and then the knight's kind of misplaced over there. So I think I'm okay with that. So I will go ahead and play bishop to f5. Okay, knight to d4. So obviously we have to save the bishop. I think I'm just going to go back here. I like this diagonal right now. There's a lot of potential squares that look pretty good, especially this one. And so I think I want to keep control over that. Knight to b5 is not a big deal. I can just move my queen somewhere and we're fine. So let's just go back. Okay, so of course I could trade, but what does that really accomplish anything? Not really, just kind of brings white's bishop here. I'm thinking of going ahead and getting this rook into the game. Also thinking about the move c6, just because it kind of takes away this square from white's pieces, which might be useful and also supports the pawn here. But also maybe I want to play c5 and be more aggressive. And if I'm going to do that, then it would be kind of a waste of time to play c6. So I could also play a6 with the idea of playing c5. Or I could just play c5 right away, not worry about this move and just move over here. In any case, I think having my rook on the D file makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And notice how I'm still giving myself those options of c6 or c5. Okay, so white's trying to get my bishop, which is actually not a bad idea. Don't believe I can really do anything about that now at this point. Bishop is basically going to be captured one way or the other. So I'm not going to worry about that. If this happens, I could simply take back here. That seems fine. If the knight comes in, probably just move my queen. So again, starting to think through this. I'm also just kind of paying attention to stuff like this. Like I move my knight here and attack there. It doesn't look like it does anything. I would just lose a piece. But, you know, just keeping those ideas in the back of my mind. The fact that this knight is undefended, keeping it in the back of my mind. Maybe a tactic opens up at some point. I don't see anything right now. But just want to kind of, you know, keep those things in your mind. So, yeah, I don't really see a whole lot of weaknesses here to attack. I mean, we could go here, but that's kind of easy to defend, I think, just like queen d2. I'm not really sure about that. Maybe then we could play knight here, which actually does look a little bit tricky for white, because if they give this up, they've stepped into the pin. So maybe queen to b6 does create kind of an annoying threat here. Now, if white's smart, they'll probably trade here and then just bring the rook over. Sorry, rook over here. But I do like the look of that. So let's go ahead. We'll make a little threat here. We'll see how white's going to react. Like I said, I think this is the simplest thing. Get rid of the bishop, slide the rook over. Okay, they decide to go queen c1. Okay, interesting. Does defend. It opens up the square, though. So now I'm thinking about going here. Because the thing about this knight move is if they don't trade for the bishop, then the knight is just kind of stuck off on the side of the board. So maybe like going bishop d3 makes sense. And of course, white can't take. I don't think they could. Maybe they could take. But then I'm going to get some pressure on this. Also c5, like I mentioned. I could actually start with the knight. And then if the bishop takes, my bishop jumps in there. It's also not a bad idea. c5, where's the knight going to go? Probably to f5. It's a little bit annoying. Yeah, so I guess I am going to use this opportunity to bring my bishop here. I don't actually know what the best move is in this position. I'm kind of not really seeing like a clear plan. And, you know, this happens sometimes in chess. Like you get these moments in the game where you're like, I just don't know what the plan is. And so number one takeaway is don't do something stupid. Like, so you don't have a clear plan, fine, but don't do something ridiculous like, g5. And all of a sudden your king gets, you know, in trouble or something, right? Try to play safe moves. Try to play moves that don't create massive weaknesses in your position, right? So that's kind of a tip that I can give you guys. Okay, so of course we can take the pawn. If we take with the queen, we're going to lose our knight, which is not good. If we take with the knight, I think we're going to be in trouble after the rook comes over and pins us. Now, it's a little interesting because we have knight to c4 attacking the queen. We lose our queen, we get a queen back, but then the rook takes here. But then we would take this rook and we would be fine. However, if I take, what if this rook comes over? And then the same thing happens, takes, and we take the queen, but we don't have a rook to take. And then white's rook is coming down and just gobbling up all our pawns. Don't love that. With that in mind, I'm not going to go there. And I need to find a new move, which means I probably just need to retreat, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. So I think I'm just going to go back. I could defend, which actually maybe isn't as crazy as it looks. Because what I'm thinking is then I can follow it up with like this. And if I get that pawn defending that knight, it's much more of a powerful outpost. Actually looks pretty good too. Yeah, maybe I will do that. So I didn't see that move at first, but upon second glance, I'm going to go here. And I have a couple of points. Number one, like I just mentioned, pushing this pawn up here to defend. That's going to be a very powerful knight if I can get a pawn defending it like that. The other point is I have knight e4 immediately being threatened here on the queen, which looks also pretty good, getting both knights in outposts like that. Yeah, so what move do I want to play first is really the question. I think I just want to jump in with the knight while I can, gain a tempo, and then maybe we go c5, c4 next. So I'm feeling pretty good now. And I'm starting to get some ideas, right? So, you know, like I said before, I didn't really have too many ideas. Sometimes you just got to play some moves and then wait for the ideas to come to you. That's okay. Just don't like do something crazy where it's like, oh, I just lost a queen or a rook because I, you know, wasn't paying attention. You still have to play good moves even when you don't necessarily have an idea. Okay. So queen goes over there. That's fine. Of course, we don't want to give up two knights for rook and a pawn. It's not a good trade, so we're not doing that. c5, c4. It's got to be a good plan, right? And again, this knight, it's defended already with the queen. But if the rook comes over, I have to move it, and it's, you know, not super solid. But once this pawn gets there, that knight's going to be very, very annoying. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking. Now, the only drawback is it gives the d4 square to white, which I don't have to do, but I think, you know, I think I'd rather have this knight here than stop white from having one here. So we'll go ahead and give them an outpost, but we'll take ours on d3. And now I'm going to start trying to think through, how do we break through here? Because we're at 2 minutes, which is, you know, a little bit lower on the clock. So I do need to start thinking through, like, what's a good plan here? And what I'm going to do is play rook here. And I'm thinking of swinging over here and trying to launch an attack on the king. I think I've got my knights very well positioned here, creating lots of threats, attacking lots of stuff. If I can also use my rooks and queen to launch an attack over here, that looks pretty powerful. So I'm not super concerned. If white wants to take that, they can. I think I just need to figure out where does this rook need to go? Which one of these 3 squares? Let's go with this one. And I'm thinking maybe queen d6 next to go for a checkmate threat. Or even just queen g6 to get both of these lined up. Okay, now it's a question of which way do we take? Let's take with the rook. And notice how all of a sudden I'm about to have all 3 of my major pieces lined up on the king. So that's looking pretty good. Now, clock is a bit of an issue, so I'm going to have to go a little bit faster here. So let's think through this quickly. And I think I'm just going to bring the queen over. Let's just go here. I don't know exactly if it's the best square. I do have to be careful for the back rank here. Like if queen a4 happens, I may have to kind of adapt my plan a little bit because this could be... Actually, it's defended. I am okay. Question is, how do I break through on the king in a short period of time? Knight here to get rid of the knight. Maybe we can set up the checkmate battery first and then go for the knight. Maybe I should have just played queen d6. Maybe that was a smarter move. I don't know. We can also go here and line up this way, because if we can force g3, that creates some other weaknesses that we can potentially take advantage of. Lots of ways we can do this. Knight to d4. I don't know if that's the best approach from white. I think what I'm going to do is just go here. So just immediate checkmate threat. Of course, they can go back, or they can play h3. I'm probably going to bring this rook over. Okay, they go for the knight. All right. So now we can go here, attack the knight. Not an easy threat. That's not an easy threat for white to deal with. Basically, it's simple. I want to checkmate the king. The knight's defending. Trying to get rid of the knight. And this is a piece that I have to do it with. So, what is white going to do? I don't know. Hope that doesn't cut it. Because now I just take with check and the game is over. So there we go. They were playing well. They were playing well right up until the end there. So, check the game review real fast. I think we played pretty well that game. I think white did too, actually, except for the mistake at the end. Yeah, 79, not bad. So, that was a good, I would say, example of how you get, sometimes you get these situations where it's like, okay, opponent's position looks pretty solid. I don't exactly know what to do, right? That's where I was feeling right around here. Okay, you know, I had developed my pieces. I had put my rooks to good squares. And then it was like, it was a question of like, I don't really see what to attack. I mean, white has a solid position here. And so, you know, just be patient is kind of the takeaway. Don't, like I said, do something crazy and make a mistake, right? Like right here, I could have easily, let's turn on the analysis, could have easily played this move and gotten into big trouble. And yeah, Stockfish is saying rook f to b1 is the best move here. Knight to c4, this is what I was talking about. Takes, and bam, I did not like the look of this at all. Now, Stockfish says it's actually fine for me. I could play c5 and the game goes on and I'm okay. It's equal position, but I didn't like that. And so, you know, here was a good idea to keep in the back of your mind too, of like, you're doing one thing, you know, you're kind of like fighting for these central squares. And then notice how I shifted and I was like, all right, now let's come over here and attack the king. And this can be very good from a practical standpoint. It's not always the best idea as far as what Stockfish wants you to do, but from a practical standpoint, it can be very difficult for your opponent to handle this kind of stuff because they're thinking about the knights, they're thinking about what's going on in the center, and then all of a sudden you start attacking them on the flank, and we started to see the mistakes, right? We started to, yeah, white was actually doing fine right here. They would have played queen a4, kind of like I mentioned. Now I all of a sudden have to be careful because my back rank is kind of weak. So anyway, hope that helps. And we'll play one more game. One more quick game for this video. All right. We're white. Let's go e4 this time. And let's play... we'll play... Should I play the King's Gambit just to mix it up? Let's do it. Let's do it. I haven't played the King's Gambit in a long time. I don't really remember much theory at all. But we're going to give it a shot. Knight to f3. There is this, oh, it looks like black actually has studied this. Yeah, there's this line where black can play there, and I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do against this. Because it's kind of annoying, because once they go there, you can't really take, or then the queen comes in, and now your king's in trouble. Am I supposed to play h4? The point behind h4, by the way, if you're wondering, is it unleashes the rook to defend that square. You have the knight and the rook. The only downside, though, is your g3 square is super weak. But I'm hesitant to play that. The other way is I could just like bring the bishop out and then maybe just tuck my king on e2, which looks super scary, That's kind of how you play the King's Gambit. You don't really worry about your king. You just focus on active pieces and try to attack stuff. I'm totally out of my book already. Like I said, I don't remember. It's been so long. I'm gonna go with bishop c4, and on here I think I'll just go king to e2, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think I'll also go king to f1. I don't like king to f1 though because I want to put my rook here, and so normally you can't do this kind of stuff, but in the King's Gambit I think you can. We'll check it after the game. I could be way off. This could be a terrible move, but it looks like I'm gonna have time to play d4. Probably take this back, bring my knight out, and just get a big center, and then slide the rook over and actually attack black. That's my plan anyway. Because you notice like they can't play a move like knight to f6, or they have to be willing to give up their bishop. And if they play, d5, of course I'm going to take it. Knight c6, like I said, I'm just going to play d4. I don't exactly know what black is going to do here. Maybe g5, g4, but it's a lot of pawn moves, not really developing the pieces. I don't know. I will say the King's Gambit is kind of an advanced opening to play at the 1200 level, but I'm just kind of trying to show you guys some different styles and different openings. Okay, so clearly black wants to play d5. I actually don't want to allow that, so I'm going to play knight to c3 first, probably d4 next, but I do want to temporarily shut down the d5 break. Now black can do it and give up a pawn, and it actually wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world, because if I take here, it does open up my king. That might actually be the best move, but I'm at least going to snag a pawn. Yeah, I wonder if I was even supposed to just play d4 there instead of knight c3 and just... So if I would have played d4, on d5 I could have taken and then went check and then, had time to like capture here or something. Okay, d6, interesting. Yeah, I think now we can just go d4. Even though our king is here on e2, look at our center. I mean, it's actually pretty good, pretty solid. And if we can get this pawn captured back, then we're doing great. We'll see what black is going to throw at us. The queen to f6. So they are defending the pawn, which probably is a good move because it's a little bit awkward as to what do I do next. So we've got rook to f1 is an idea. Like I already mentioned, I guess queen to d3 just to kind of add some support to the center. Sometimes in the King's Gambit, you even play things like g3 and you just sacrifice everything and then bam, bring out the bishop and just go crazy attacking, which I'm kind of liking the look of that. The point is, I want to finish developing and I can't. By playing g3, takes, then boom, the bishop comes out. Queen's got to go somewhere. And then I'm ready to use my rook on any of these files and just attack the king. That's kind of what I'm thinking. The issue is, what about bishop g4 after all of that? Takes. Or even takes bishop g4 right away. No, but then I would have bishop f4, I think. It's getting so crazy already, guys. It's getting so crazy already. Or even rook f1. Takes. There, maybe rook f1. Takes, bishop g5. Oh, I can't play bishop g5 if the bishop's on g4. So yeah, this is the only move that's concerning me. If I do this plan. Tough move to find, but it still might be a killer move. Could play queen d3 to defend this way, but I don't really want to trade queens, do I? Not if I'm giving up all my pawns. So yeah, it's a tough question. Maybe the best move is just to simply slide the rook over. I'm still going to have to deal with this move, though, however you look at it. There is e5. I don't know that I love opening up the center like that when my king is here. Queen d3, bishop d2 sort of completes the development, but it just feels weird. I just need to find a move to play against bishop g4 that I'm comfortable with, and I'll play it. So can we do that? That's the question. Takes, bishop g4, rook to f1, bishop takes. I could still put my bishop on e3 to continue development that way. It's probably okay. But yeah, we're going to try it. We're going to try it. This is a risky move because I pointed out bishop g4 is a strong move. See if black sees it. Very strong. Okay, they don't see it. That would have been very good for black, I think. Now I was going to try to play rook f1 and see maybe rook f1 or queen d3 and see what happened, but this way allows me to play bishop g5 with tempo. And now I think I'm back in the driver's seat. And you're going to see in the King's Gambit, these tempo moves like this are huge. Like this is a big deal, the fact that I'm able to get this off. If the bishop was here though, can't play this move, right? Because the bishop's pinning my knight and black would simply take it. That's why that was such a powerful move. But like I said, hard one to find, especially when your brain is kind of thinking about the recaptures to stop and consider another move. Very, very tricky stuff. So now, maybe rook g1 lines up on the bishop, also the queen. Where's the bishop going to go? The bishop's trapped, actually. Look at that. So I don't know where the bishop's going to go. I think we just won a piece. Kind of a weird way to do it, but it looks to me like we can take this next. Now we see bishop g4. Yeah, I guess it's still playable. So the idea is if I take here, black's going to take me. That's just a trade. This is defended. Then we could slide over here. What if I retreat? That looks too risky, right? Maybe not. Even just queen d3 could also be playable at that point. Queen g1 takes. 3, 6, 7, 3, 4. I'm down 2 pawns, but I have lots of attacking chances. I like that. All right, let's do it. So we're going to take here. I'm expecting the queen's going to take here. Yep. And then I think we go queen g1. Basically what I'm looking at here, guys, is what's going to happen after the trade. Now, black doesn't have to trade. They could play h5, which might also be a good move. So wild. This is so crazy. Well, I'm going to play it anyway. I have to kind of move along here. But I'm expecting this capture, this trade. And basically, I'm going to be down a couple pawns, but I'm going to have both rooks lined up attacking stuff along with the bishop and the knight. And all of black's pieces are going to be on the back rank. And a lot of times, even if you're down a couple of pawns, if you have that many pieces, even without queens, it's going to be good for you. So that's what I'm counting on here. Now, if black is smart, I'm going to say if black is smart, they would have played h5. I don't know what's happening here. That's just giving me this for free and a tempo on the queen. So here we go. We saw it again. Black was playing pretty well, and then, you know, that big mistake that we keep talking about kind of ruins the game. That's kind of the story of the 12, 11, 1200, 1300 level. So, unfortunately, it's just a free piece with tempo. I still have time to save my bishop. So, that was not the move for black. Earlier in the game, that would have been good, but not now. Yeah, but if they would have played h5, though, that would have been a powerful move, I think, because then that bishop is just solid as a rock. I can't really touch it anymore. I have no pawns that can attack it, you know. Would have been a totally different story. Now we're just going to win. Let's see. Do we take here? We just retreat? If I take here, I might lose a bishop. Then I'm taking this, and I'm getting to the king. That looks pretty good. There's going to be g6. Does kind of defend a little bit. So, yeah, I think I just want to go ahead and go for this. I'll trade. If black takes this, I'm not worried. This way I get to the king, though, which is pretty good news for me. Let's jump in with the knight. Just moving my pieces forward. And now that I'm ahead, trading queens is actually a viable option. I think the simplest and easiest thing to just win the game. Now, maybe queen g3 is a better move, or actually maybe even bringing the rook over is a better move. I was going to say this is simple enough. Just trade the queens and win the game. But now that I'm looking at it, this is too good to pass up. It's too good to pass up, I think. There is f6, but I've got to believe that we have a good move in that position. Got to believe we have a good move. Let's take here. And notice I'm paying attention. That I'm not hanging anything. But I'm setting up something like this. Take advantage of the dark squares. So here we go. You're going to see it in action. Now we've got this square we can jump to. Like, yeah, after this, we can jump here. We can also jump over here. I'll go with this one. Just seems more centralized. Seems like it's probably the better option. And okay. So a4. I'm just trying to checkmate the king at this point. Checkmate the king while I can, while black's pieces are still stuck back there. So, like, what's the most aggressive move that I can think of? a4 looks like it's it. Everything is, you know, defended. b4 opens up the diagonal. Looks very dangerous. Here we come. Here we go. Okay, there's 2 moves. And now it's just a question of where's like the winning blow at? Can we find it? I'm expecting king. No, king there walks into fork. There's one winning blow. So the king has to go here. Is there a checkmate? Ooh, we have rook f5. We have rook f5. I just saw that. Yeah, we also have knight here check. Forces the king there. Don't know if that leads to checkmate, though. Yep. So on here, we go for the fork. We win the queen. On here, I think rook f5 is the way to do it. And black has no moves. They can't go there. Here, they just, yep, that's it. There you go. So a good example here of the King's Gambit. This is kind of what you're going to expect when you play the King's Gambit. Wild, crazy type of games a lot of times. And, you know, you have to be good at tactics, right? Because there's all kinds of stuff lurking in the position. Also, a little bit of opening knowledge goes a long way. So let's go ahead and check this one. Should be an interesting one to look at the game review of. And we're not going to see 90 accuracy here for sure. Notice it's much more difficult to play accurate games in a King's Gambit type of opening than some of those other ones. I don't know why it's taking so long. Even the computer can't analyze the King's Gambit game. All right, there we go. I had to refresh. And 81.72. Okay, let's take a look. Let me close this. So this is called, what is this called? The Cunningham defense. So yeah, this one I have not studied. Apparently, bishop c4 is the right move. So, you know, I didn't know that. I just kind of have played the King's Gambit before, and that's kind of just what you have to do, develop your pieces. So, okay, so I got the right move there somehow. King to e2 is not the move. Okay, interesting. Yes. King to e2, not the move. King f1 is apparently how you play this. So interesting. Okay. I was thinking I wanted to leave this square. But if you guys remember later in the game, all those bishop g4 ideas where that pin was happening, maybe that's part of the reason why the king is supposed to go to f1. I don't know. All right, let's keep going though. Our opponent played c6. And then b5 was an idea, or d5. Remember I mentioned d5 was probably a good move? And basically the point is that after this, even though I get a pawn, look at my king. And now I have to always be on the lookout for stuff along the e file. So it's very dangerous. But opponent played passively. We got the center. g3 was not the best approach. According to the engine, e5 was the way to go. Yeah, I did think about that, and I don't know. I didn't really know. Take with the pawn, and after, let's just say queen goes over here, what was I going to do? Knight to e4. Interesting way to take advantage of the position. Notice this d6 square. The knight's jumping in, pairing with the bishop, the queen. Huh. All right, so didn't see that one. Let's keep going. Yeah, see that? Bishop g4 would have been a great move for black. And the point is, I don't have time to take this. Because, boom, I get skewered here, losing my queen and losing the game. So I was going to play, I believe, rook to f1, which I don't think was a good move. Engine says no. And then after this, notice how now I can't play bishop g5 anymore, because this is pinned, and black simply takes it, right? So that's kind of what I was pointing out. Okay, but in the game, what happened in the game? This, bishop g5. Yeah, now I'm in the driver's seat. Didn't like rook g1. You can see how complicated this is, though. Very difficult to find the best moves. But pretty typical, you know, King's Gambit type of game. Yeah, d5 was the blunder that just lost the piece, but h5 was the best move. And that was going to be tough. I don't know what I was going to play here. Yeah, probably rook f1 would have been the move. And then now black can finish developing. Game goes on. It's still going to be wild and crazy, but that's the King's Gambit for you in a nutshell. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a thing or two. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.